Hello everybody, my name is Mohammed Sheikh and today we are going to discuss several reasons why the EB1C visa program is a safer, faster, cheaper and more profitable alternative compared to EB5 visa for investors who wish to migrate to the US. One thing I've noticed recently is that most regional centers, immigration attorneys, and even EB5 visa marketers don't disclose the fact that there's a massive backlog in all visa categories for EB5 visa investors who were born in China, India, and Vietnam. And this backlog seems to be even applicable to the newly created aside subcategories in the EB5 visa category. The AIIA has recently sued the USCIS to clearly disclose the figures for the new subcategories so that EB5 visa investors aren't defrauded by regional centers and immigration consultants who go around claiming that the visa dates for the new categories are current based on the visa bulletin of September 2023. As per the AIIA, the number of petitions in the newly created subcategories aren't clearly reported, and the AIIA wants USCIS to transparently report the numbers so that EB5 visa investors can make informed decisions and avoid a waiting period of a decade or more for EB5 visas, especially if they are from India, China, or Vietnam. Let's do a quick comparison between EB1C and EB5 visa categories. So with EB5 visas, temporary visas are normally unavailable, but with EB1C, usually investors are able to get L1 and L2 category residence visas for themselves and their families in about 2 to 4 months, maximum 6 months, but usually within 2 to 4 months. And with EB5 visas, investors can't get a temporary green card within a short amount of time, and to get a permanent green card they have to wait for at least 9 years or more in most instances. With EB1C category visas, investors can get a permanent green card in about 2 maximum 3 years, but usually within 2 years. And Indian investors can get temporary green cards after 6 to 9 years and permanent green cards after 14 years due to the visa and NVC backlogs. And investors can get permanent green cards in 2 to 3 years via consular processing if they were to choose EB1C visas as an alternative. And more importantly, EB1C visas are 60% cheaper compared to EB5 visas, and then the return on investment is also 3 to 3.5 years for EB1C in contrast to minimum 10 years for EB5 visas. And then the dividends are usually 1% annually for EB5, and it's at least 3% annually if they were to go with us for an EB1C category investment. And EB5 visa investors know that there is zero guarantee of a prompt and full fee and investment return if an investor is denied due to the regional center's fault, and we guarantee that whether it is our fault, which hasn't happened in the last 8 years, or a regional center competitor's fault, but the bottom line is we guarantee that if an investor is denied due to any reason whatsoever, they will get their investment amount back within 6 months, usually 4 months, but maximum 6 months. And this is something a regional center will never give it to you in writing. So, as I mentioned earlier, not only is the route to a green card streamlined and very short in the EB1C category, but the cost is 60% cheaper right away. And if you factor in the cost that you also have to pay for the tax collection at source if you're an Indian investor, obviously that makes a massive difference. And then the other important factor that we need to consider is that EB1C investors get substantially more in dividends compared to EB5 visa investors. And if you happen to have your own business, obviously you get your green card in about 2 to maximum 3 years. But if you don't have your own business, then you have to add 1 more year to the process, and even then you will get a temporary green card in about 4 to 5 years under the EB5 visa category, and you will get a permanent green card within 3 or maximum 4 years under the EB1C visa category. So any way you look at it, anyhow you want to compare it, you will always find that EB1C visas are cheaper, faster, safer, and more profitable compared to EB5 visas. And another important factor we need to consider is that there's complete safety in EB1C versus a very high risk in EB5. There's zero guarantee that investors who put money into the EB5 visa category will even get a temporary green card, let alone a permanent green card. And according to USCIS statistics, about 35% of those who apply for EB5 visas do not get permanent green cards. And recent news reports have shown that many EB5 visa investors have not only lost their green cards, but they were also ordered deported from the US. And they've seen that their EB5 visa petitions have even been denied at the I-829 stage. And this is something which really has a terrible impact on not just the investor, but the investor's entire family. And our investors get a guaranteed full return of the invested amount because we have a mandatory buyout clause under which we buy out the investors' investment in 36 to 42 months after the funds are invested. And not only that, we also go ahead and make sure that we only choose safe businesses where it's easy to get a positive cash flow very quickly. So whether it's an auto parts store, it's a grocery, etc., we go ahead and basically choose very conservative and easy to run businesses. We locate them in attractive locations, due to which the chances of financial losses are close to zero and it's easy to earn a profit. And one more thing investors need to keep in mind is that in the last 16 years, the EB5 visa program has been shut down many times because the regional center program is temporary, and due to political instability and volatility, it has been subject to shutdowns, and recently it was shut down for a pretty long time, while the EB1C visa category is permanent and isn't vulnerable to political risks and volatility. With EB1C, obviously, you have significantly higher returns, you have lower fees, and a smaller capital investment requirement, which means that it's more affordable. And even if someone were to go ahead and tell you, hey, why don't you look at Grenada citizenship, which allows you to get temporary E2 visas, one thing you need to keep in mind is there is zero guarantee that you will get an E2 visa. Zero means zero guarantee. And there is zero guarantee that you will get your E2 visa renewed. With EB1C, we have a simple concept. Either you get the results or you get your money back. You do not get excuses from us, period. With EB1C visas, obviously you have faster processing times and a very small visa backlog. And one thing we need to keep in mind is that USCIS figures indicate that EB5 visas usually take 42 to 62 months to get approved at the I-526 stage, and definitely over 36 months to get approved at the I-829 stage. So what it means in a nutshell is that in addition to the backlog, you also have the USCIS backlog, and then you have the NBC visa backlog if you were to go ahead and choose consular processing. So in a nutshell, you're looking at minimum 6 years to get a temporary green card. That is if you're lucky. And in contrast, EB1C visa petitions can be adjudicated within 2 months because they are eligible for premium processing, which means not only do you get your petition approved faster, it also means you'll get your green card faster. In fact, most Indian and Chinese EB5 visa investors can go ahead and get their permanent green cards in EB1C category in about 1/4 of the time it would take to get a temporary green card in the EB5 category. So would you rather go ahead and wait 6 to 8 years to get a temporary green card under EB1, under EB5, or would you like to go ahead and get your permanent green card in 2 maximum 3 years under EB1C category? That is a question you have to ask yourself. As the numbers over here indicate, they speak for themselves that you do not need to wait 6 years, 8 years, 10 years, or even 15 years to get a temporary green card when you can get a permanent green card in 2 to 3 years under the EB1C category. And don't take my word for it. Ask any ethical board certified immigration lawyer and also look at the USCIS website as well as the State Department's visa bulletin, which is usually published on the 23rd or 24th of every month. One more important factor we need to consider is that investors who are on H-1B visas in the US and have approved I-140 petitions, they can port their I-140 petitions to retain their priority dates in order to get their PR even faster under the EB1C category, but they cannot port their I-140 priority date under the EB5 category. So one more thing you need to keep in mind is that with EB1C, the risk of capital loss is basically minimal. And with EB5 visas, investors have been known to experience capital loss, and there are not dozens, there are not hundreds, there are thousands of lawsuits filed against regional centers, and more than 10,000 EB5 visa investors have already experienced either partial or full capital loss because the investments were very risky. And in EB5, the investor actually has to acknowledge in writing that they know that the investment is risky and there is a chance they will not get their money back. In contrast, in the last 8 years, our EB1C investors have experienced zero capital losses because A, we are very diligent, we invest in safe businesses and safe locations to reduce the risk of losses. And because we actually invest our money along with that of the investor, and we offer every single investor full access to the books of accounts, we know that the chances of losses are minimal because a loss to the investor will also result in a loss to us. And if we commit any fraud, there'll not only be a lawsuit against us, but also a police case filed against us. And really, nobody wants to go ahead and get engaged in litigation. So, in order to avoid litigation, we keep a very open set of books, we give a right to audit, and we avoid any fraudulent activity. And if needed, our investors can also get preferred shares, which means that not only do they get guaranteed returns, it also means that their investment is more protected than even our investment. And one thing EB5 visa investors will need to keep in mind is that they will never get a written return of capital guarantee, and they will never get a written return on investment guarantee, while we can offer both guarantees to our investors. In 2023, the Indian government imposed 20% tax collection at source for all outbound remittances that exceed 7 lakh Indian rupees per year. So what that means is that for EB5 visa investors who are looking to invest $800,000 plus have to pay about $100,000 in admin and legal fees, the overhead alone is $180,000. For EB1C investors, the TCS overhead is $74,000, which is not even half of what an EB5 visa investor would pay. So right off the bat, not only the investment amount, but even the overhead is more than 60% cheaper in EB1C compared to EB5. In plain words, it means that EB5 investors will have to pay at least $600,000 more compared to EB1C investors. It's usually around $700,000 more. Our capital stack is normally $640,000 to $700,000 per investment, out of which the investor puts in half, we put in the other half, and both parties own 50% of the business. And we have a mandatory buyout clause, which means that we buy out the investor after 3 to 3.5 years. We invest in new businesses such as real estate brokerages, mortgage brokerages, auto parts store, auto repair stores, or even groceries. And we always include a mandatory buyout clause, which means that our investors are guaranteed to get their money back after 3 to 3.5 years of investment. We are proud to say that we offer a guaranteed exit strategy with every single penny of the investor's money refunded, because we buy out our investors at the end of 3.5 years. So if any EB5 visa investor can get a written guarantee from any regional center that, hey, I will give you your money back after 3 years, after 4 years, take it in writing and then tell me that, okay, you know what, we get a similar guarantee. I can guarantee not a single regional center and not a single EB5 visa investment will give you a guaranteed exit strategy. So ask yourself, do you really need your money locked up for not only a few years but a decade or more? Or do you want to get your money and your green card quickly? One more thing we need to keep in mind is that unlike EB5 visa investments with regional centers, we have always had an open books policy and offered a right to audit for our investors, which means that whichever business they're investing in, the investor has a right to examine the book of accounts, and if they want to, they are welcome to conduct an audit at their own cost at any given point in time. They just need to reach out to the CPA who's been hired for a particular firm and do the audit. Nobody will stop them, nobody will ask them. Okay, and you will never get similar rights with regional centers, because if they were to do so, you can be sure that they will get sued morning, noon, and night. And the reason for that is most regional centers are not exactly known for being honest and transparent and truthful. Most regional centers will not offer a 100% fee refund guarantee, and we offer a 100% fee refund guarantee if the investor is rejected due to our fault. If the investor is rejected due to reasons that are attributed to the investor, obviously they will not get their fee refund guarantee. But one more thing that is more important than just the fee refund guarantee is we offer an unconditional investment return guarantee within 6 months if for any reason the investor's petition is denied. So let's say the investor's petition comes in on October 1st, and on December 12th, or let's say December 31st, the petition is denied. By June 30th, the investor will get their money back, no questions asked. Our process is very simple, straightforward, and streamlined, and it's also very transparent compared to regional centers. Our contracts are very short and to the point, and are very, very fair. You just have to send in your documents, we prepare your contracts, you review it. Once you're happy, you sign it, you send us the fees, and after that, we'll register the company and go ahead and get the tax ID, open the bank account. You remit your investment amount directly into the joint venture company's bank account. We lease the office or the retail space depending on what we are going with. We hire the initial employees, get the furniture fixture, find the uh, appropriate locations, and then we go ahead and file your visa petitions. In about 2 months, your petition is approved, after which you can easily file for your consular processing. If you want to come to the US, we can also file the L1 visa petition, which is usually approved within 2 months as well. And after a year of filing your EB1C petition, you will get your green card, a year to year and a half. So that's how long it takes for the priority date to get current. As soon as your date is current, you are eligible for adjustment of status. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me. My contact information is listed here, so you know that you can reach out to me at any point in time. And not only am I the CEO, but I also personally deal with every single one of our investors. And I'm available at least 14 hours a day for our clients. So if you have any questions or concerns, you can directly reach out to me via email, via Skype, via mobile phone, via WhatsApp, or even if you want to just come over to our office and meet me, no problems. If I'm in the US, I'll definitely meet you. If I'm traveling, I'll be available either in Europe or in UAE or in India, depending on the time of the year where we have to go for different seminars, conferences, and events. And by the way, if you look, our EB1C program is also a lot more competitive and a lot more attractive compared to even the EU Golden Visa programs.